Alright, in this video we are going to look at the exercise files and learn how to style or add styles to the basic elements that I've already given you. So I'm going to talk through what we have here. So first, our folder has in it an index file, a style sheet, and then two image files. Okay, I'd like you to just open up the index file and the style sheet by right-clicking on them and opening them in Text Wrangler or BB Edit. So our index is going to look like this. Again, we have that link to a style sheet. So ours is called style.css. It's calling on the information that's in our style sheet. Okay. In our actual page, there's already some predefined information in here. We have four main divs. We have a div that we've called banner. We have a div that we've called navigation. We have a div that we've called content. And we have a div that we've called footer. Now we also have a div that we've called page container. And this is going to allow us to centralize our content, center our content on the browser window, and keep it kind of cohesive and pulled together. Okay? Let's take a look at what's on our style sheet. So our style sheet is this big long thing of a bunch of different styles that we're going to talk through. There's a lot that's already been done for you. But I want you to know that this first part above the commented note that says begin your styles, you don't have to know what any of this means. This is just a way, I always just paste this into my style sheets to say to the browser, do not impose any of your styles on my design. I'm going to tell you how to display all of my elements. Okay. Now, we're going to look at this web page. So I'd like you to open up your index file in your browser. And you have this very strange looking web page. Now I know the colors aren't pretty, but they at least allow us to see the divs that we're going to be moving around the page. Now I often do this when I'm first starting a website just to see where my content is, and it might be a good strategy for you too in the future. Before we start there, I should note that right now our divs are stacked on top of each other. And what we want to do is move these around so they actually make a real looking web page. The reason for this is that when the browser reads HTML, it reads from top to bottom. And if you don't tell it to do anything in terms of style, it's not going to move any of this content around. It's just going to display this from top to bottom. So our goal is to change around this web page and make it look more like a cohesive design with a navigation column on it. Now, I'm going to be moving very quickly through adding different styles to this page, and because practicing this is the best way you're going to learn it, there's a lot that I have not put on that page that you're going to have to add in as I talk about it. Because I will be moving fast, you will need to pause it every once in a while to catch up with what I'm typing in the page. All right? Okay, so first of all, what we need to do is we need to type in determine a way to make these divs float around so they're not on top of each other like this. Okay, so we want to move our divs in a way that allows us to compose a real looking web page. So we're going to go back to our style sheet, and we're first going to work with the navigation div. Now that's that green column that was on the side there. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do something to it called a float. We're going to say float left and save it. Let's reload this. See, now when we float left, what we get is our content moves up, but we can see what happened here, that our 800 pixel wide body div in the center here went behind that. So what we have to do, we have to float that div to the right. So we're going to go to, content div, and we're going to say float right. Save and come back. Reload it. But we floated it to the side now, but now what happened? We see that the footer div went behind things. So what we have to do is tell the footer div to make sure that there's nothing on either side of it before it displays. So that'll allow it to go all the way to the bottom of the page. So we're going to go down to footer here. We're going to add a property called clear. We'll say clear both sides. Okay. We'll hit save and we'll reload, and there we have it. We have our footer div floated to the bottom, and this is starting to look like a normal web page. We've kind of organized it so we have our navigation on the left-hand column, our content in the middle, our banner on top, and our footer on the bottom. But not many web pages get slammed up against the left-hand side of the browser like this one, so we want to add some margins. And the way we're going to do this is by styling our page container div. So let's go back to our CSS file, and under page container, we want to say that it has margins around it. Okay, so right now we've given it a width of 950, so nothing can be outside of the page container, and the page container is going to be 950 pixels wide. Okay, but we want to give it margins. So what we're going to do, we're going to use a shorthand version of the margin trick that you learned in the previous video, and we're going to say that for the top and bottom margins, use 0 pixels, and for the left and right, make those auto, which means no matter how big the browser is, no matter how big the browser window is, the margins on the right-hand and left-hand side are going to be equal. Okay, and then we will say save there. Okay, and we'll return back to our browser. And look at that, we've centered our content on the page. Okay. The next thing we want to do is maybe we don't like how this banner up here is jammed up against the body, the content and the navigation divs. And we don't really like how the footer is jammed up right here too. So maybe we want to make some space between the red and the pink. So we're going to go back to our style sheet, and under banner, we're going to say margin, and here's a specific use of the margin tag. We'll say margin hyphen bottom, and we'll say 10px, so 10 pixels. And then we're also going to say underneath the content div, which is the footer div, but underneath that, we want to make a space of 10 pixels as well. Okay, and we'll save that. Let's return to our page, and we'll reload here. And now we've made that space there with the margins. Okay, next what we want to do is add content or add styling information to our content text, specifically the content paragraph. Now, if you remember from the video, we can specify how to style a specific element inside of a div. So we're saying inside the content div, do this to paragraphs, but only inside this content div. So we're going to add some information here. We're going to say, let's have the font family be Helvetica. If it doesn't have Helvetica, we'll say Arial. If it doesn't have Arial, just use the default sans serif. Okay? We're also going to say that we want the font size for that paragraph to be 20 pixels high. And we want the margins for the paragraph, so the space on the outside of the paragraph, to be 10 pixels all around. So if you only give one value for the margin, you're specifying the margin all around. So we'll say save, and let's go back and take a look at this. So notice what it looks like now, and let's reload that. So we've added this margin around the text, and we've changed the font to be Helvetica. Okay, let's do the similar thing with the banner up here. Maybe we don't want to have a heading with making it look exactly like the body content. So let's just make it blue though. So for blue, we're going to add the color 0000FF. Again, I didn't know that off the top of my head. I had to look that up. So I'm going to save that there, and we're going to reload. Okay, so the banner text is changed to blue. Okay, let's go back here, and we're going to add some styling now to the image. Okay, so if we scroll down, we see that we already have a blank spot for images inside the content div. Maybe we want to add a border here to it. So we also want to give it some space. So let's give it a margin of 10 pixels. And then let's also give it a border that's 1 pixel wide. It's a solid line, and it's going to be black. Okay, and we'll say save. Let's go back to this. We'll reload. So that's what you should have right now. You should have a blue text banner, a sans serif text paragraph inside of your content div, and you should have a border around the cat picture. We're going to stop the video here, and in part 2 we will finish working on this web page.